Hello, hello. Welcome in. Welcome. Live. Let me double check, make sure I'm live over here. Let me double check to make sure I'm live over here. Not seeing me live over here. I'm going to have to look for it, aren't I? Welcome, welcome. Everybody's live right now. Looks like everybody's live. Who else is live? I'm live. Welcome in. There I am. All right, hold on. Let's get in here and check the audio, right? My phone's being slow. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome in. Say hello. Welcome. There we go. Okay. All right. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. Say hello while you're here. While you're here, pop in and say something. Ask me your spiritual questions. That's what I'm here for. Maybe that's in the way, right? Maybe that is in the way. How about I move this to the other side of the screen over here? How about that? How about we put that over there instead? What do you think? I think that looks better. I think it's going to be in the way no matter what I do, right? Just because of where it is. Maybe I'm used to it being over here in the corner, so I'm going to leave it over there in the corner. What do you guys think? I'll make it a little bit smaller. Welcome in, everybody. Say hello while you're here. Thank you, my wife. My wife's here. She came in and said hi, and thank you for that, baby. Right? All right, let's get some people in here. Let's get this thing moving, right? Let's get some people in here. What are you guys up to today? I'm a little bit late. I was messing around doing stuff and had a little bit late going live today. I was going to go live probably about almost an hour ago now, but I had to run around and do some stuff, make some coffee. So I had some coffee to drink. Then I had a cat that wandered in and all kinds of crazy, weird stuff, right? But I'm live. I was going to go live yesterday and didn't end up going live. I had a lot of stuff to do. I apologize to everybody that I haven't been on here since the 2nd, and today is the 16th. So it's been a while. It's been 2 weeks, right? Been 14 days. So welcome, welcome, welcome. And ask me your questions. Otherwise, I'm just going to start talking as usual. I'll just start going until people start asking me something, right? Ask your spiritual questions. You see that? Okay. If you come in, say hi, tell me where you're from. I'm on at a weird time. I'm on during the day in New South Wales, Australia. So probably nobody from Australia is going to be in here because everybody's at work, right? So those of you over in the United States, I might be able to hit you guys 4 o'clock on the East Coast of America. That's 7 o'clock on 4 o'clock on the West Coast of America. So it's 7 o'clock on the East Coast of the United States, which means if it's 4 o'clock, then it's 1 a.m. probably in the UK. So you guys are all probably sleeping, right? So it's a weird time of the day where I'm going to catch everybody at night in the United States. Nobody in Australia will be on unless you're not working today or on a break, right? So thank you, baby. My wife is putting a bunch of good stuff in there for me to get the operation rolling here, right? So make sure you say hello, even if you're just scrolling by. Make sure you say hello before you take off, right? Let's get some people in here. Let's get this party started. I haven't shared this out, so I'm gonna have to share it out. I love you too, baby. I love my wife. My wife just tapped in the chat there. She said, "I love my Kelto. I love you too, baby. I love my Satori." Okay, so like I said, say something before you take off. Maybe slam on one on the screen there and give me a couple of hearts so we can get some more people in here. Let's get the party rolling, right? Let's get the party rolling. Okay, so what are you guys up to? All right, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world. We're not going to talk about politics, I don't think, right? Maybe we will, but I doubt it. Politics usually gets people freaked up and riled up, and then people start doing crazy stuff, right? Raf, welcome. Oceans 5, welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome in. Tap on that screen there so we can get some more people in here because this is a communist platform and you have to jump through hoops to get people on your live. And the best way of doing that is doing a bunch of things on your screen, right? On the screen to get some people here. Okay. So what are you guys here? What are we going to talk about today? We got a lot of stuff to talk about spiritually in the world because there's a lot of you out there that aren't even paying attention to what's going on. If you guys follow me, you guys know that I post stuff all the time about spirituality, and everybody gets turned off by that word because the powers that should not be have equated that with religion in your minds, and religion recruits you. Spirituality waits for you to find it. I wrote a book about it. It's right there. See that right there? Boom, right there. The reality about reality, returning to the old ways, is about that. Okay. So what is going on here? What is the reality about reality? Reality about reality is that there are evil people on this planet who have taken control of this planet. They think they own it, and they have edited all of your sacred texts and your Talmuds to get you to believe that you are all little by your onesie and that you're stuck here in this little place because they're keeping you captive, okay, in this place, and they're not letting you go anywhere by not allowing you to realize that you're a free person, not allowing you to realize that you're more than this physical plane body, this physical body. They got you convinced that this is all there is and that you only have one of these, and they own it, and they own you, and they own everything else. So you just live your life thinking that you're a piddly little teeny pissant in there underneath the boot and ready for them to stomp on you anytime that they get annoyed with you. But it's actually not that at all. It's not anything like that at all, but you're unaware of that. How does this all work? Let's get into that, right? So if you guys are paying attention to the screen when you pop in here, you'll know that I'm actually coming to you from a completely different plane. I'm not just some guy who's standing here who thinks he knows what he's talking about, or sitting here who's like, I got a theory, I've got a dream the other day. None of that's happening. Frankie, welcome in. Before you guys bail out of here, hit a button, right? Hit a button before you bail out. Ask me some questions. Don't be a bunch of pussies and sit around and just watch and don't ask any questions. What do you guys want to know about? Speak up and you'll get an answer, right? This is a freedom. This is free. I'm trying to give you the free information on how to escape this place. And you guys just sit there and scroll up looking for a kitten with a bazooka firing at grandma across the street, right? So if you guys want to figure out how to get out of here, all you have to do is ask questions and stand up to the microphone and say, hey, I don't think you know what you're talking about. How do I get out of here? And then I'll give you some answers about how to get out of here. It's actually very simple. I wrote about it in this here book right there. I wrote about it there, and I also have it on my podcast, which I don't have the symbol up for it right now on the screen, but I can put that up. It's called Orion Rising. Right? If you guys want to know how to get out of here, all you have to do, thank you for that. Who gave me that? Natalie, welcome in. Welcome. Share this out, Natalie. Oh, I said those words. The communists that are in charge of this platform are going to get mad at me because I said that, and they're going to diminish the amount of people I can have in here because I said words that they're afraid of. Why are they afraid of words? Let's talk about that for a minute, guys. Why are the powers that should not be afraid of certain words put in a certain order? You know why? They're afraid of questions. They're afraid that you're going to question everything about yourself and question their authority. Why is that? Because they're deathly afraid that if you start questioning anything, everything, doesn't matter what it is, guess what will happen? You'll start thinking for yourself. Critical thinking is not what they want. Critical thinking is the thing that they want to stifle in you and me and everybody else. They don't want any critical thinkers. You know why? Because critical thinkers ask questions, and questions create knowledge, and knowledge creates wisdom, and wisdom creates your IQ to go up and your veiling to start coming loose. And then you start seeing them for the tricksters, the shysters that they are. You start seeing them for the desperation and the fear that is driving them to try and keep control over you, me, and this entire planet. But they're losing that control. You know why? Because people like me are telling you to start thinking for yourself, and you guys are starting to think for yourselves, because there's a bunch of us around the world that are saying, hey, what exactly is going on this planet? What exactly is this? Turn off that television. Turn off those 1,000 channels of crap that everybody keeps programming for you. There's a reason why they're called programs. Right? And then stop scrolling with this algorithm. They have an algorithm that's controlling you. They have an AI bot that's telling you what to look at, when to look at it, and where to look at it. And it gives you more of what you like. Why is that? Because whatever it is that you like, they're cashing in on, Jack. Okay, so ask me your questions of what's going on, or I'll just continue to continue speaking here. So what's going on here? You were something else before you were a human, and all of a sudden you became aware of yourself. And then you woke up one day and you were a human being. Why is that? It's not because you're in a prison that they're zapping your immortal soul and bringing you here. There is no Anunnaki that created you. The Anunnaki is a lie. You should look that up. It wasn't translated properly. It was a lie, and it's being propagated by History Channel. It's being propagated by Disney. Every single person that works for the History Channel's Ancient Aliens, or anybody who's on those alien cons, are government plants keeping you asleep. You need to know that. Right? I created Ancient Aliens Worldwide on Facebook. It's one of the largest alien hunting groups in the world, as a matter of fact. And every single person from that History Channel show is in my group. Why is that? Because they need to be in there to control things. They're in there to steal conversations, to turn them into History Channel's documentaries. That much is certain. You can ask anybody in the group, right, that the conversations that go on there are all of a sudden episodes over there on that show. And every single one of those people used to work for the government. Almost every single one of them used to work for the actual government. And now they're what, supposed whistleblowers? And the government's letting them do that? Where do you guys get your knowledge? Where do you guys actually pay attention to reality? If, say, the government was covering something up and there's 100 people going to a conference to tell you the government's covering everything up, then why do you think the government would allow them to do that? Why do you think? Well, because they can't stop them. Yes, they can. They stop anybody that they don't want to know anything. They just whack them. So why are they letting these people to continue to talk? Because they're writing the narrative. That's why. All of them used to work for those people. Okay? You have to know that. All of them. And then there's you have those people who deny that stuff in a way that you don't notice. Look at Scott Walter. Okay? Scott Walter works for History Channel, Disney, and he was on the Skinwalker Ranch. Okay? He's a scientist. I know a couple of people who know him, and they say that he's not a nice person, that he's arrogant and he's ego. Okay, so Scott Walter is named by Lou Alzondo, apparently, because I didn't see that. Thank you for that. Right? Thank you for that. Who gave me that? Ash, thank you for that. So Lou Alzondo used to work for the government in the military, and his job was to identify and investigate UAPs and UFOs, right? Okay, so that was his job. His job was to basically cover that crap up. Oh, but he tells you that that's not what his job was. Then he says, he comes out and he starts talking and he says, well, I can tell you stuff, but I can't tell you some things because I'm still under a non-disclosure agreement. Okay, so then he says he gets mad. He says he gets mad because they won't let him talk about stuff and he quits. He ends up in front of Congress talking about that. And some of the paperwork, thank you very much for that. Who just gave me that? Ms. Thank you. So he ends up in front of Congress, and on the paperwork, there's a list of people that he claims were on his task force, and one of them was Scott Walter from the Blind Frog Ranch, right? Or not Blind Frog Ranch, that's the other one, from the Skinwalker Ranch. And doing investigations there. All of a sudden, he pops up with the Ancient Aliens people, and he's touring all around the world. And when people ask him a question, you can look at any video or go there and ask him yourself. Ask him, so you worked for the government on the task force researching UFOs? He will say to you, because he's done it over and over, and I've watched him do it. He will say to you, my name was listed. When Lou Alzondo went up there, my name was listed as a member of that team. He has never said out loud, yes, I was on that team. Why is that important? Why is that important, boys and girls? That's important, boys and girls, because he's never claimed to actually be on that thing. So legally, he's never on that, and he's not claiming that he was on that group. So if anything ever comes out later and he has to go to court, he can go to court. It literally, he said that, so it's plausible deniability. So later, if there's a court case, he can say, I never admitted that I was on that group. The only thing I stated was my name was on that list. Otherwise, he would have said, absolutely, yes, I was on there. He's never said that. He has always said my name was listed. Why is that? Okay. So you have to actually pay attention to that. Okay. So why is that important? Why is that important? Because the man is now touring around and talking about ancient aliens, and so's Lou Alzondo all of a sudden. And a guy that worked with him on the actual task force of investigation, who was the one who coined the phrase, I don't remember his name, he's the one that coined the phrase UAP, because everybody thought that UFOs were silly, and no one listened. And when you said UFO, they went, yeah, wackadoo. So then he changed it to UAP. And they even talked about that together when the two of them were together, because he's a friend of what's his name? So literally you have these people that are government plants. I said the same thing about Dr. Stephen Greer a long time ago, long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away. I said, if Dr. Stephen Greer started out and he was a doctor, because he was a surgeon, and then he left and he started chasing UFOs. His claim is he started chasing UFOs and he was meditating and had a whole crew of people, and the government came to him and said cease and desist, and he said no, so the government came after him. Okay, so here's his story. Okay, the government told him, cease and desist. You don't have the rights to talk to aliens. And he said, neither do you. You're not the spokesman for the world. So everybody in his entire group, including his wife, got cancer and died. He got cancer and he didn't pass away. So he claims that was their attempt to get rid of him and stop him. The next thing he says is that he's working for the government as a liaison talking to aliens. So what? You can't beat him, join him? So the government offers him a job after they threaten his life, and all of a sudden he takes the job and he's going to work for, now he works for the government. And you can go back and look at him talking about that during the time of Clinton being the president. Because he had, one of his statements he said was, one day I was in a room talking to an alien and I walked out the door, and as soon as I walked out the door and closed the door and looked up, Bill and Hillary Clinton came walking up, and they were president at the time, and said, are aliens real? Because you're the person to talk about. And I looked at them and said, no. So he was lying to a president of the United States and saying aliens weren't real while he was working for the government with aliens who were in fact real in the next room. And he was claiming that. Now all of a sudden we're supposed to believe that he's a good guy again because he left working for the government and retired there, and now he's trying to blow the whistle on the government. Think about how that plays out if you're an adult. Think about how that plays out. That's kind of like the whole story of the Garden of Eden. I've told you this many, many times. That doesn't play out right if you're an adult, because any adult knows that if you take a cookie jar and you set it on the table in front of the kids and you say, I'm going to leave and go to work, and you can eat anything in the house except for these cookies right here. See them? Can't eat them. These kids are going to eat those cookies because you put them in front of them. You gave them the temptation. You warned them not to eat them. And you set them right down to where they have to look at them all day long, and they're going to eat them. And that's what happened in the Garden of Eden with the current story. Okay? Because the current story is not the real true story of the Garden of Eden. All right? Now know that. I am a theologian. I have been studying religion my entire life, and I have 4 religious titles in 4 different religions. So I'm not coming to you. I was knighted by the Roman Catholic Church. I'm not coming to you from the standpoint of some crazy guy who just has a theory, who's talking about this stuff. I come to you from a person who's been researching not only UFOs, but religion my entire life. And I teach spirituality, not religion, because religion recruits you. Spirituality waits for you to find it. Okay? So it wasn't an apple, that's for sure. No, it was supposed to be some sort of fruit. And people say apple, some people say cherry, some people say, you know what I mean? It was supposed to be eating from the tree of life. So they were saying that they were eating from the fruit of the tree of life. And everybody turns that into a third dimensional construct and says it was whatever, apple or whatever, like you were saying. Okay, the story's not even true. The story is about the dissension into having a veil, being veiled, not having a memory and not knowing who you are. That's what that story is about. But they used it to control you by saying that it was the woman's fault, pointing everything at the woman and going, Adam would have never eaten from that jar of cookies if it wasn't for her and that stupid dog, the serpent, who slithered in. And then the serpent, first of all, let's start with, hold on, let me rewind. God, who is all-knowing, all-loving, all-creating, has no idea that the kids are going to eat out of the cookie jar he put right in front of them, doesn't know there's a serpent in the garden, doesn't know that serpent is supposedly someone who can talk to people and tell them to eat from the tree of life and tempting them. God doesn't know any of that. So God's a moron. God is not all-knowing, all-loving, all-everything. Okay? So, right, well, it would have been anything, truly, mushrooms. You're absolutely right, Nord. Mushrooms would have been, because we've been eating mushrooms in every religion or something similar with those things, right, in it, like psilocybin, DMT, ayahuasca, all of that stuff forever, if you look at every religion, to expand the consciousness of the human condition. It doesn't matter the religion, they were all doing it. Okay, they all had something. Purple lotus in the east, the mushrooms in the north, and you know what I mean? So it depends on peyote in different places. So it depends on, if you look at any religion, they were doing it. Okay, the Christian religion may not be, because by that time they weren't imbibing, stuff to expand their consciousness by that time, but they continued doing that. If you look at all of the Vikings, that's what Santa Claus, part of Santa Claus's outfit is that mushroom, which is actually, white and red, right? So the whole story of Santa Claus is also mistaken. The story of Santa Claus is the descension down the spine and back up the spine through the chimney, the claustrum, where you get the word claws from, the claustrum in your brain stem going up to your optic thalamus. And then if you're good for goodness sake, you get something, a present that illuminates with DMT your entire souls, right? Is there a kind of Christian art with mushrooms in it, right? Have you studied the raw material? Yes, DJ, and then I'll get back to you, Nord. Yes, I've actually translated all 6 books, all 106 sessions of the raw material 2 different times on my podcast. You can go and listen to it. My podcast is called Orion Rising. Let me see what I did with it here, and I'll put it back up for on the screen here so you guys can see it. I have it. I took it down. It's somewhere here. Hold on. Let me find it. And I'll put it back up on the screen here. I don't know where it went now that I'm looking for it. It just disappears. And maybe this is it. Let me see. There it is right there. Here's my podcast. I'll put it right here for you. It's called Orion Rising for you guys to see that. If you go there, it's free. You can listen to it anywhere where you listen to a podcast. Or you can watch the MP4 version of it on YouTube under my name. You'll find that going back to 2017 or 2018, I started doing it the first time, and I do it on a very low vibrational level for people who are still kind of asleep and in 3D. And then the second time I did it, I just finished last year in 2026. 2025, at the end of 2025, last August, I finished, or September, I finished doing it the second time. Both times it took me like 2 years and 10 months doing it every Friday. Do I do books? Yeah, I have this book right here on the screen. This book right here, The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways, and Orion Rising is actually a book. This is my latest book. It's about the true spirituality in the world and what's going on here on the planet. I published this last June, so it's been almost a year since it came out. Okay, so it's The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways. Okay, and that other logo that I had up is actually the book. The Orion Rising, I'll put it back up on the screen, is actually a book as well. But that one's about the ancient aliens. So you can find that one. That one's about, what if there are really aliens down here on the planet, and there's a secret war going on. Okay. Penny, how you doing? Brooke's not here right now. She's at work. How you doing, Penny? Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. People need to know about what it says about Lincoln and Jesus. Absolutely. I've talked about that many, many, many times, about Lincoln being a walk-in, right? Yeah, you should look that up. People need to know about that. People need to read about the Law of One. A lot of people try to say that stuff was a crock, but I talked about it also. Now that the disclosure stuff starting to come out about the supposed non-incident at Roswell, New Mexico. If you guys heard of McElroy, the woman who was the nurse where it didn't happen, where there wasn't an incident in 1947 at Roswell, New Mexico, and there wasn't quote unquote fingers, and there wasn't an alien that didn't survive that, and there wasn't a 3-week interrogation by this woman. I got a hold of the stuff that was put together, and I actually translate that for you as well. The entire conversation with that alien called Errol. That's also on my podcast, Orion Rising. You guys can take a look at that. That's up there. I translated things like the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, the Corpus Hermeticum, the Hermeticus. You guys should take a look at that stuff too. I talk about every kind of religion, every kind of spirituality on the face of the earth. But just in this book is my first book on spirituality, The Reality About Reality over there. But that's about true spirituality. So yeah, I do that. Those are on ebook. I don't have them on audio yet, but they are on ebook around the world, and you can get the hard copies. And if you're here, I'm in New South Wales, Australia. If you're in New South Wales, Australia, I have hard copies sitting here in my bookcase, which is just off screen over here, that we sell when we're out and about. On YouTube, it's under my name. So if you go to YouTube, my YouTube channel is my name, Leonard O'Neill. You'll see my picture there, and you'll also see the logo here on this side of the screen. The Merlin and Maeve logo is in the background, on the wallpaper. So you can go there, and like I said, look me up there, Leonard O'Neill. You can look up that there, and you'll see and I don't have the link, or I would put it up, right? Yeah, you. How are you doing, Penny? Right. So yeah, I would have to look it up. Let me look it up and I'll link it in the thing to the crowd. I'll tell you what it is. Let me put it look it up my YouTube channel and I'll tell you what it is actually. What you guys would look up to find me here. Hold on. Let me log in. My YouTube channel name is at Leonard O'Neill, no spaces, right? Leonard Oneill, and then 1067. That's what you can find that. So let me type that in the crowd, right? Wait a minute. Hold on. There we go. Sorry, I'm messing up the thing here. So that's what it is on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and type that in on YouTube, or type in at that, or look me up, you'll find that channel, Leonard O'Neill 1067 1067, and that's my page where the last 500 episodes of my podcast are up there, and all the videos that I do from when I'm live on here. Okay. So you guys can take a look at that. It's free. You can watch it. You can watch the Law of One. Ask Penny, who's right there, who's sore, Penny, but still listening. Ask Penny. Penny's been, her and I have been. We actually came to this planet together to help you guys figure this stuff out. So Penny could tell you that I did the Law of One forever and ever, right? So yeah, you guys need to take a look at that. Listen to that. I translated it. Like I said, the first time I translated it, those videos I think are still up because YouTube keeps trying to deplatform me. They did once. I had my podcast called Orion Rising and a channel called Orion Rising. And 4 years ago, Google deplatformed me and deleted 500 episodes of my podcast. Right. So you might not be able to see the first translation of that there. But if you listen to it in MP3 file, which it's everywhere in the world, I post it after this. I'll post this to the MP3 file as well. That is out there, called Orion Rising with that logo, with this right here logo, right, which is my other book as well. Okay, so you find that online wherever you listen to an MP3 file broadcast. That goes back far enough to hear the first translation of the Law of One. There's over 600 episodes of that up there for you to listen to, and then the last 2 years and 10 months of doing that. So however many, what is that, 110 or 115 episodes for the 106 episodes, right? So yeah, you guys should take a look at that. Or listen to it. It's well worth it to listen to it because it's free and all the information that I talk about on here. Okay. So yeah, right. Penny's been listening to for years, and she loved when I was doing the Law of One. Okay, so let's continue with what's going on, right? So if you know anything about the Law of One, like Ash, you were talking about that. If you know anything about the Law of One, then you know what's going on here. That's the kind of the basis. The Orion, the Orion Crusaders. The Ra was with the Orion Council of Light. Okay. Penny and I are part of, so is my wife, who's not here right now, are part of the Orion Council of Light, okay? And we are here trying to help everybody to remember and to get back on track and learn what's going on down here, okay? So the Orion Crusaders, when they were in the belt of Orion, we kicked their butts out of there and followed them here, okay? We followed them here to warn you guys, but it was too late. They got here ahead of us, and they took control of this planet and 22 other planets in this part of the Milky Way galaxy. So we came here to help fix all of that, okay? And we're mopping that up. They're gone now. They left from here, but they did damage to everybody down here, and they did damage to history. They did damage to, by giving information. That's who that you guys think is the Anunnaki, who you think created you, but the translation of that scroll is wrong. You could look up George Smith's translation of that scroll, who was the actual person who started translating that scroll back in the 1800s. And then the two people who translated, I can't think of their names right now, a man and a woman who finished translating it properly, not Zachariah Sitchin. You'll find out that you were never created by the Anunnaki, right? The scroll talks about the Archons and the Ajiji, and the Archons and the Ajiji are not aliens who came down here in spaceships. The Archon translates, if you look up that word, it translates to High One, not God, not a king, not a god coming from the sky at all. It translates to high among them, highest, most high. That translation of those words being used 10,000 years ago didn't mean aliens, it meant angels. So if you're predisposed because you've been programmed to believe what they're teaching you on the History Channel's Ancient Aliens, that means they tell you that every time you hear the word angel or any other word, when they're talking about somebody that is a deity figure, quote fingers, in the air, that means alien, and they want you to believe that. They're desperate. They have to have you believe that because it's the only way that you can believe that they weren't actually angels. They have to tell you God doesn't exist, there is no God, and aliens came here. Okay, and that's the only way that they can get you to believe that aliens came here is they have to change your thinking away from a creator, away from these archons and these watchers who were in fact being told to you from a different language, and they don't even translate it into English. If you look at the word archon, the word Anunnaki doesn't exist the way you think it is. It doesn't mean those from the heavens came. That's what they're telling you. So there's a whole species called those from the heavens came, which is bizarre because I'm, say, Irish. I wouldn't call myself those from Ireland came, would I? I would say that I'm from Ireland. I wouldn't say I'm those from the heavens came. I'm those from Ireland's came. That's my name. Those from Ireland came. So Anunnaki, according to the ancient aliens people, because Giorgio Tsoukalos told you that in a lie, by the way, he originally in 2012 said, Zachariah Sitchin said that was the God Anu coming from space. Okay, Zachariah Sitchin did say that. That's not what it says in the scroll. Okay, that's not what it says in the scroll. There is no God Anu that they're talking about. They're not talking about gods at all. Okay, they're talking about archangels. The archons are archangels created by the Creator to create things, not physical beings in spaceships. Okay, so the Agigi are angels. Those words translate modernly down to English to those words, but they don't want you to know that because they want those words to mean something completely different. And they tell you that. Well, that word means princely born. It means king. No, that's one possibility. It's like the word run. Okay, the word run has probably 1,000 different meanings. And the only way that you know what that word means, if you see it in a sentence, you can't know what that word is being meant in that sentence until you read the sentence. You read the sentence, and what does the sentence do? It gives you context of what that word is being translated as when you're saying, you look at the word run, you can look at that, and the first thing would be whatever you're predisposed to. Oh, they're saying run down the street, put them on their feet, run, right? And then you read the sentence, and the sentence says, I was running this machine. Oh, okay. Now you know that meant he was operating a machine. Do you see? So the word Anunnaki, the word Anu, Naki, no spaces in the words because they didn't have any spaces in any words back then. You had to read the entire sentence structure to find out what the sentence was meaning. Okay, so the word was Anunnaki. Okay, 2 words, not one. And Anunnaki doesn't mean God. It means below God. Okay, so it means most high among them, but below God. So that doesn't mean third dimensional alien. It doesn't mean the God Anu, which he thought it meant because the Arcadians who lived over on a border with them for a short period of time, the Greeks had a god called Anu. So Zachariah Sitchin said, oh, that's got to be what it was. Okay. Fruit Loops, love it. How you doing? Welcome in. Everybody's talking about on the internet again because people are talking about that the Mandela effect with the word loops in Fruit Loops, right? Or the word fruit in Fruit Loops again. Instead of being like yours with the F-R-U-I-T, there it says F-R-O-O-T again, Fruit Loops, because they wanted to put the O's there, and everybody said, that's not what it used to say. And that actually changed and changed back again in the timeline, by the way. So welcome in, welcome in. Okay, so Zachariah Sitchin lied when he translated the word Anunnaki, and he said it was the god Anu who came down from heaven. So in 2012, Giorgio Tsoukalos of Prometheus, working for History Channel, which is owned by Disney, he said at that point, repeated that, the god Anu came down to earth, which was a lie. He knew it was a lie when he said it because he knew the translations, or he never looked at the translations. So everyone who's telling you that the word Anunnaki means those from the heavens came or the god Anu either is lying to you outright, or they just do not understand the actual translation of the words. And they're not going to look it up because they're making money off of telling you Anunnaki means aliens, that came down to earth, and it's actually not true at all. Okay, so who is Atar King Sargon the 11th? It depends on everything. Depends on translation. Again, that's the problem with everything. Everything begins and ends with Marcella. Welcome. Begins and ends with or the second, not 11. I said 11, didn't I? Sorry about that. The second, I'm in a hurry and I look down and the I. Thank you for that. Welcome in, Marcella. Welcome in. Welcome in. Thank you for that. So, and Ash, thank you for that rose that you sent me earlier. I didn't say thank you when I just looked up and saw that. So you have to realize that context is very important. Okay, as a theologian, as a person who studied mythology, as a person who studies history, when you look at things, you have to look at things. Here's the example that I love to give. When I was in Philosophy 101, which was taught by a monk, by the way, there was he was literally, there's pictures of me dressed up as, with the brown monk outfit and the, rope as a belt. No joke, no word of a lie. And the monk was teaching Philosophy 101, and the first thing he said in there is the first rule of Fight Club. No, I'm kidding. He said the first rule. I'm a historian, but I don't have a bachelor's or a master's degree in history. So I haven't gone and gotten a piece of paper on that. Okay. But I do, and I have studied history my entire life. You can't be a theologian and try to study religion without studying mythology and without studying history. You just can't do it. Because to understand a religion, you have to understand the history of the people, the history of the religion. Then you have to understand mythology, because most of the Bibles are mythos, written around mythos to get there, whether it's real or not, which they all are real. I'll tell you that for free. They all are real, but they are all not to be taken in third dimension. History is kind of the same way, because we know that history has been written by those who rule. So those who conquer write history. So history is always pointed to the people who are in charge at the time, like the Romans when they were in charge. The people who think, the oligarchs who think they own this planet now, they're rewriting history so that their people have the way, or whatever you want to say, right? So you have to realize that when you're trying to study a religion, that it's kind of the same way. The religious history is going to be a doctrine that the church is going to set down. So it's hard. I was knighted by the Roman Catholic Church. Sorry, I have two cats in the house, and one of them is looking at me over here because he wants me to put him back outside, but I'm not going to do that right now. The Roman Catholic Church in 329, Constantine, the emperor of Rome, decided that Christianity, because he was inventing it basically, was going to be the realm's religion. In doing so, they edited stuff, whether you like it or not. They took stuff out and put stuff in, and it was his history, right, Fruit Loops? He decided it, and he decided what the church was going to be going forward, right? So the church we know now, because of the Bible that came out from the Ethiopians, that all those books they claimed were crap and were never really in the Bible, quote unquote, were actually in the Bible. Right? Because the Ethiopians have been trying to show everybody since the 1800s, and people just don't know about that, right? Please tell us about that God is coming. God's not coming. Jesus isn't coming back. That was part of the lie that they told you. Jesus never said, wait here, I'm going to go get a bus. I'll come back for you. Jesus never said that. The quote that they used to tell you that, Natalie, thank you for those roses, and Fruit Loop, thank you for the roses. The quote that they tell you is God says he's going to come back like a thief in the night. That's a quote from John and Matthew, who were asking Jesus. So it's in Matthew and John, when they were asking Jesus about their illumination. He was talking about that you're going to see the light. And when you see properly, things will be different. And they said, when will this enlightenment come to us? And he says, I tell you truly, and this is in Matthew and in John, I tell you truly, that my Father says that he will come like a thief in the night. Not me, not I'm coming back. My Father said he will come as a thief in the night, meaning the knowledge, your enlightenment will come as a thief in the night, not when you're coming back, okay, when he's coming back. My dad just told me this, right? Your dad just said what I'm talking about to you? That's funny, because it's true. So there's nowhere in the Bible that Jesus said, wait here, I'm coming back. They edited the Bible out. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. And the next book in the books is Acts of the Apostles. Then the next book is the book of Romans. There are books in between Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John and Acts that they're not telling you about. Okay. In that time period, if you read the Acts of the Apostle, which is there, the Acts of the Apostle starts with Jesus leaving. So Jesus came, was unalived, resurrected, and what they tell you is that he was here for a second and said, "Did your doubting Thomas touch the wounds?" And then he said, "Wait here," and then he disappeared. That's not what happened. He was here for 40 days, 40 days, teaching. So where are those 40 days? They've been taken out of the Bible. Okay, so those 40 days are gone, but it still says in the Acts of the Apostle that when Jesus leaves and they said, "Let me explain to you what just happened," our rabbi just left and he was here for 40 days after his resurrection. That's in the Acts of the Apostles, but they don't teach you that in school. They don't teach you that in Christianity. They skip over Acts and sometimes quote it. But they skip over it and they use the book of Romans. They're teaching you out of the book of Romans. Why are they teaching you out of the book of Romans if they're teaching you Jesus? Why are they not teaching you mostly out of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John? Because Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John only paint Jesus, from a child and in only one book and only for a 2.5 year time period. Okay, that's it. And then the books where Jesus was teaching you what he really wanted you to know about, they took out. Okay, and when did they do that? Starting in the year 329 with Constantine. Sorry, my cat's going crazy over here. Starting with Constantine in the Council of Nicaea, the first Council of Nicaea, then the second Council of Nicaea. Then, after Constantine passed away, 50 years after he was gone, there was another council, and they did some more stuff. Thank you for that. So, why is the church felt so wrong? The church feels wrong to you because it is. The official church, I was knighted by that church, by the way. I have a Sir title. I am a knight of knighted by the Roman Catholic Church. And I have a Christian minister title. So I get one for being a knight, but I also have a Christian minister title. So I'm not coming from an atheist standpoint or somebody who hates, that religion. I'm coming to you from the truth of being a true Christian, someone who follows Christ. But I don't just follow Christ. I follow real spirituality because Jesus was teaching the way. Lao Tzu, the book of the way, the Tao Te Ching means the way. Okay, so here's somebody who appeared on the earth in 634 BCE. That means before Common Era, okay, before Jesus was even born. That guy was around teaching the way out of here. Jesus was teaching the way out of here. Okay, so the religions feel wrong to you because, as I say in this book, religion recruits you. Spirituality waits for you to find it, okay? Because they're not teaching you how to get out of here. They're teaching you how to sit in their seats, buy their coffee, and give them money. They're a corporation who's trying to conquer the planet, and they want a church on every corner, like a Starbucks on every corner, okay? So they're not teaching you how to get out of here. They're teaching you how to return to the church and be a good little Roman citizen, okay? So you have to realize that, okay? So, it felt wrong. Yeah, I didn't say, I said, well, that is why it felt wrong. Yes, you're absolutely right. Because of that. That's why it feels wrong to everyone. That's what I was saying. The reason it feels wrong when you get to these churches and you start listening to them is that you realize they're not telling you anything. Because it's true, right? The Christian Bible, as it sits today, depending on which church you go to, only has like 63 books or something out of a possible 83 to 90 books. And what they're doing is and I used to have one and I used to pick it up and show it to you guys, but I left it in America because I'm in Australia. I moved over here to be with my wife, and I haven't gotten a new work Bible, right? So the work Bible that Christian ministers have up on the pulpit that they're talking to you from has a curriculum in it. It's a 2-year, a 3-year, or a 5-year curriculum, depending on your Christian church and what they use. And that curriculum just goes around in a circle and teaches you the exact same thing, and it does it on a 2-year cycle. But on the first year, you hear different passages than you do on the second year on the same month, say January. It will be a theme. Like September is usually the theme of September and October, somewhere in that area. Usually September is relationships. Okay, and that's what they teach you. And the relationship that they teach you is you have to have a relationship with Jesus, a relationship with God, and you have to have a relationship with other people and how you get along with your family and friends and wife and all of this stuff. Okay, and each one of those topics changes slightly year to year, but you'll find that if you write down every month when you come to church, what is the ministry about this month? And write down all of the things that they're telling you that it's about. You'll find that when you get to the next year, it's going to be about the same thing, but it's going to have different passages in the Bible. And if you wait long enough, 2, 3, or 5 years, you're going to find out it's going to be the same passages, unless they change priests and he comes in with something different, right? That's when I get, what is that? That's when I got pregnant, October, right? That's relationships. Think about that. If you were going to church, they probably convinced you to. I don't know. I'm just saying. Okay, so Brooke, there's my wife again. She just popped back in. Hi, baby. I love you. She just said hi to everyone. She just popped in. So you have to realize that they've edited this stuff. And why have they done that? To control you. The religions themselves are literally done. Oh, Phyllis, hi. I didn't even see you in there that you popped in. Hi. And she's talking to Brooke, right? So you have to realize that they did this to you on purpose to keep you here. They did this so that they could control you. And that's what they're doing. Okay, so let's go all the way back to what we were talking about before. When you are studying, first thing that the monk said, if you're going to study philosophy, because it was in my philosophy class, if you're going to study philosophy, you have to, pardon me, you have to learn about the philosopher, right? Say you're going to study Aristotle. So you have to go, who was Aristotle? When did Aristotle live, right? Where did Aristotle grow up? So Aristotle was what? A Greek? So when did that time period exist? When was that? What year around? When did Aristotle live? Where did Aristotle live? What education did Aristotle have? So you have to then look at the political landscape, the historical political landscape at the time. What motivated Aristotle to talk about what Aristotle was talking about? The same thing with, say, Socrates. Then you come forward in time to Friedrich Nietzsche, right? German. So Germany, at the time, who was Friedrich Nietzsche? When did he live? What did he learn about? What was the geopolitics of the day to motivate him? What was his motivation for learning? And what was he trying to do in life? You have to get to know that about the person, the author, so that you can figure out what it is that you're learning, right? And why they're writing and what they're motivated by. The same thing happens with everything. So when you look at, say, the Council of Nicaea, when did the Bible change? Why did it change? As a theologian, I have to look at that and say, this is when Jesus was on the earth. And these were all the books at the time that came out of that say it talked about Jesus. So you have to investigate, what is it that Jesus was supposed to be? He was supposed to be a prophet. Why was he a prophet? Then you have to look at the Hebrew religion and look at all the check marks that Jesus had to check off to say he was a prophet, and they had to have been close enough so people actually believed that he was that prophet. Then you have to investigate, like a crime happening. Was he real? Was he fake? Did he just fake it because he wanted followers? What was his plan? Who was he? Where was he born? The whole thing comes into play. You have to do that. Okay. So when you get into the weeds, you find things like people say there is no empirical proof that Jesus was ever born. No, that's true. That's not true. There is empirical proof. There's actually more proof that Jesus was alive than there was Constantine, who was the emperor, or Pontius Pilate, who was the mayor at the time, or the governor of the Hebrew people at the time of Israel. Okay, so there's actually more documentation for Jesus. Okay, and then there's things that they don't want you to know about that's in that documentation that actually gives more validation to Jesus, and also shows you that Jesus was actually a person. And they had to take that stuff out because Constantine changed Jesus from a man to a god. So they had to eradicate things and not let you know certain things about law at the time. So if you actually look into it, the physical law at the time, okay, at the time in that Hebrew religion, and if you're Jewish, it won't take very long to ask a rabbi. If you already don't know the answer to it, it wouldn't take long to ask a rabbi this question. At the time of Jesus, when Jesus was alive, let's say between the year 10 BCE to somewhere around the year 33 AD, in the Hebrew religion at the time, was it legal for someone to call themselves rabbi? And what did it mean to call yourself a rabbi and to be acknowledged as a rabbi? Were there certain conditions and laws that had to be checked off? There were. Okay, for a human, for a man to be called rabbi and teach in the synagogue at that time, he had to be married. So Jesus could not have been not married. He had to be married to somebody, and everyone had to know who that person was. Okay, and to be called rabbi, which means teacher, and speak in the synagogue as a rabbi, reading scrolls and leading people on a mass, which he was invited to do. That's written down in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and it's also written down in the Sanhedrin history of what was happening. You actually, what can you find Jesus? Wait, what are you saying? And people asking me questions and I'm not listening. My dad's saying made up Bible causation wrote. I just couldn't bring myself to mind to not believe in God, right? Well, you need to believe in God. It wasn't, the whole Bibles weren't created. They're not fake, right? What source can you find Jesus was a real person? If you look up Roman law, there's stuff written down by people, not just Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. There are different people in the Sanhedrin at the time. If you look at the people who were in the church at the time, the Sanhedrin is the head councils of the Hebrew church. There's documentation there where they were investigating Jesus because of who he was and him getting into trouble. So there's actual documentations of people saying this guy Jesus was creating a commotion and he was saying these things and it's an affront to God. And there was minutes. They took minutes of their meetings and the Sanhedrin was discussing Jesus. So in that 2.5 year time period when Jesus was alive, there was a lot of talk and investigation by the Hebrew people who were in charge of the religion at the time. There was a whole bunch of information there just by them. Then you had the Romans. Romans were meticulous at keeping records. So you can look that up in history and it's actually there. Constantine talking about it, his wife talking about it. Many people who witnessed stuff wrote these things down. So it wasn't just the 12 apostles that give proof of Jesus. There was actually people who witnessed Jesus in different places that wrote down there was this guy who said this stuff. Okay, so you can look that stuff, right? I just cleared up years of questions for me. Thank you, Chris. Right? Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought I heard my phone telling me that somebody was moving because I tracked my wife and we track one another. Then I had a car drive up out front and I thought, well, who is that? And my wife just said that she is sick. She got sick at work. And so she came home. She's got the plague, which we figured she probably was getting that, right? My dad just said, read, what is that? Ethiopian. Yeah, read the Ethiopian Bible, right? Yeah. I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to get a copy of it because of that. Because that's got like the Book of Jubilee, that's got the Enoch, that's got even past that, it's got all kinds of stuff. I have read all of the Dead Sea Scrolls, right? So the Nag Hammadi, all that stuff that they claimed was bullshit that they took out. Well, guess what was in the Ethiopian Bible? So he's right in that, right? So yeah, and because of, right, yeah, getting wild. So because of that, they've been trying to get people to look into it since the 1800s. I have looked into people who are looking into it and watched documentaries of them filming them looking at those scrolls, the actual scrolls that they have in the Ethiopian Bible that's based on what they have in their Bible. Okay, so that's been going on since the 1800s, and I've read documents of people saying they went there and this is what they found. I've read many people. There's my wife. Come over here to the. So you got sick and came home, baby? Did you? And now she just infected me. No, she already did that anyway. I probably gave it to her. She's not feeling good. So I thought my sound said that you were moving. Okay, so the Ethiopian Bible is now blowing the lid off of 2,000 years of control and manipulation by these people in different places, right? So you have to, yeah, you're right. I don't know what Phyllis had said, but or to Hannah, right? Yeah, trying to make sure that you're safe is not going against God, right? So I did need it on before, but I don't think I need it on anymore. There wasn't enough sun coming in, but it looks like there is. Sorry, Brooke is asking me questions, right? Um, yeah, Penny said not feeling well is going around. I also haven't felt good. It's I mean, let's talk about that, right, guys? Let's talk about that. There's a design, an influx into certain things on this earth that are making us all not feel well, and I can't go into too many details because the powers that should not be, quote unquote, fingers, don't want me talking about that on air, right? So, yeah, the Catholic king, right? So the Catholic king translated, yeah, you're talking about King James, right? Translated and removed stuff. Yeah, it's Constantine did it first, and then yeah, maybe chemtrails, Fruit Loops. So you had Constantine change it in two councils. That was 329, right? 329 and is 327, 329 AD. Okay, so we're in the year 2026 AD, 329 AD. Constantine started editing. Then after he died, a few years later, 50 years after his death, so he died about I think it was 10 or 15 years, maybe 20 years after he edited it. 50 years later, so 70 years after 330. So in the year 400, edited again. There was another council, right? That went on. Then in the 1100s, so we're looking at in the year 400. Then a few, then years later, edited again, and then in the 1500s by King James, edited again. So then we have it until now. Then we have the New International Version, the NIV version, which was edited again. They change words so that small things, small details change. Okay, and people don't think about that, like the story of Adam and Eve that I talked about earlier. Okay, the story of the 666 being in the Bible. They don't want you to know about that. They changed that story, right? So if you read in the New International Version of that, it says, let him who hath understanding reckon the number of the beast, for it is a number of man, and its number is 666. So that says it's a human number, right? For it is a human number. It's just a number that we use as humans, and it's 666. Well, that means the devil, right? That's not what it means at all. It means the beast. It doesn't mean the devil. It doesn't mean Satan. It doesn't mean Lucifer. It means the beast. Okay, and that's what it was said. Well, what does that mean? Okay, exactly. So the thing is, they don't translate that for you, and it sounds like it is one of our numbers. It's a mathematical number, 666, and that's the number of the devil. Okay, it's not what that's translated wrong. The actual translation is, "Let him who hath understanding reckon the number of the beast, for it is the number of man." The number of man, and its number is 666. Okay, and that means 666. Okay, so what would it mean if you change that word from a human number to the number of humans, the number of man? Okay, not how many people are on the earth. 666. How is that important, and why is that important? It's important because we are a carbon-based unit. This reality is made up of mostly carbon-12. What is carbon-12 made up of? 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons. 666. Okay, so the number of the beast is physicality. Physical, third dimension reality is the beast. We are the living beast. We are the beast, beastly, living as a beast. Okay, so 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. You can look that up. Okay, true story. Okay, we are a carbon-based unit. This is a carbon-based reality. Carbon-12 is made up of 6 protons, 6 electrons, 6 neutrons, 666. So the beast, physicality, third dimensionality, 3D reality is the beast. Okay, non-spiritual, living in the flesh, is eating of the tree of life, because you're eating of the physical plane. Okay, they were supposed to be teaching you that, and they were not teaching you that. The way that Lao Tzu, the Tao Te Ching, the Buddha, Jesus, All of these people, Moses, Thor, right? People don't realize that Odin was crucified. Odin did the same thing that Jesus did. Thor also sacrificed and did the same thing. So Odin was the All-Father, the father of Thor. Odin came down to earth in physical form and was crucified on a tree, died and was resurrected and went back to Valhalla. Then he sent his son down. So John 3:16, for the Lord so loved the earth that he sent his only begotten son. Same thing happened. Odin, the All-Father, the creator of the universe, sent his only begotten son down to earth. He sent Thor down to earth in human form, and Thor had to sacrifice himself, die, and then be resurrected back into his mortality, his immortality, God status, and then save the humans, and then ascend and cross over Bifrost, the Rainbow Bridge, which is your chakras, which is 33 runs of Jacob's ladder, 33 vertebrae in your spine, cross 33 years of his life, 33 years of Jesus's life. Okay. So what is that? Carbon might have 6 protons, electrons, and neutrons, but what is that? Michelle Obama got 2 orbs. You're funny. Who said that? Matt. Matt's funny. Matt's a troll, but Matt's funny. Okay, so now, right, so do you think that we should that we should watch 2073? 2073, it changed my life. 2073, I don't know what that is, so I haven't watched it. It's probably a documentary or something. I don't know what that is. I just know that the numbers add up to, what is that? 512, right? That's a 3. I don't know about that. It's a movie. I'll have to take a look at it. I don't know what it's about. I love how they all use. Oh wait, what's this that Penny put up here, or Brooke did? Tell me what you think our life purpose is. Your life purpose. I actually have a video that is on this platform, Merlin and Maeve. Also, I'm going the wrong way. Also on my page on TikTok and all over the wherever I post. The purpose of your life is literally, I said this on my last live, the purpose of your life is to live. You are an immortal. You don't know this. You don't remember this because you're veiled. You have your third eye is blind. You're veiled. You don't have any memory. So you have amnesia. You think this is the only life that you have because you're living in the beast. You're living in the third dimensional reality. The meaning of life is what you make of it. You're here so that you can live and have these experiences. You're supposed to have these experiences and live. But at some point, you're supposed to remember that you're not just this physical thing, that you are actually immortal and that you are a light being that is having this experience. You're supposed to graduate to that thought process. So the meaning of life, there is no meaning to life. You're supposed to give it meaning. Joseph Campbell said that. You should look into who Joseph Campbell was and what he talked about as well. Okay. So where's the mother, right? Are you talking about Brooke? She's in the other room, I think. She said she wasn't feeling good. She might have gone in to lay down. I don't know. Unless you're talking about like the mother creator, right? Mormon, right? Is that what you're saying? Mormon? So the mother is the feminine. I don't know what you guys are talking about, but I'll go down that road. In this physical plane, with that control that they did back, starting with in the Christian religion and the Hebrew religion, starting with Constantine, was to remove the feminine, get it out of the way. Why is that? So that they could keep you in the masculine and the lizard brain and keep everybody warlike. Okay. So then what they did was they tried to eradicate that from all religions. So you're supposed to wake that up within yourself and find that balance of masculine and feminine. That's what all of these ways are trying to teach you around the world. From all religions, they're all trying to teach you that you're supposed to look within yourself, balance your chakras, find that within you, that balance of the feminine and the masculine. It doesn't mean sexuality. It doesn't mean physical form. It means those attributes and the governing bodies of that. The physical plane, the physical attributes are the first 3 chakras, and that's this physical reality and living in the physicality. The spiritual, the upper 3 chakras are the feminine spiritual ways. You're supposed to move into that, right? I have to get into the chakras. Yes, you do. You should look into the chakras. Every single religion in the history of the world knew about the chakras. They just called them something different. For example, the Japanese called them Mitsubishi. Okay, you guys know the car. They have a car called Mitsubishi, and the emblem of their car is three diamonds. Mitsubishi is Japanese. Mitsubishi means three diamonds. Okay, so that was their idea of the bottom three chakras, the upper three chakras, and the heart chakra. Those were the three diamonds, and if you polished all three of those diamonds equally and balanced that, so that was physicality and non-physicality with the heart. So it was the mind, body, and the spirit. The mind, that's non-physical. The body, physical. Lower three chakras, upper three chakras, reversed, right? So the mind, upper three chakras, the body, lower three chakras, and the heart. Mind, body, and spirit together as one creates the perfect being to find their way back to God. So that's the Japanese version. Then you have the Greeks who called it the Kirkos. That's where we get the word circle from, which meant spindle wheel. It meant wheel within wheel. So you have that going on with the Greeks. They understood that there were these energy fields in our bodies that they called the Kirkos, right? It's literally where we get that word circle from. It comes from Kirkos. So that means wheel of energy that was in the body. So they knew about it. Then you have the Hindus who knew about the Kundalini and the Kunda buffer, which they don't teach you that anymore. They say Kundalini, but there's two. There's two of those that go up your spine. That's the masculine, which is all the red, orange, and yellow colors, and the feminine, which is the blue, indigo, purple, and colors, right? So you have the purple and the what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of the other color. That's the upper three chakras. So masculine, feminine, Kundalini, masculine, Kunda buffer, feminine. Okay, the Celtic knot work. So now let's look at the Vikings. They knew that there was two knots. I have it on my arm. I have my shirt on, so I don't know if I can show it to you, right? The Celtic knot work. Okay. So, and there's the tree of life, right? So the Celtic knot work. They knew that there was two, masculine and feminine. So every religion knew about that stuff. Okay. They knew that there was, we had energy centers. Bifrost, the rainbow bridge. The rainbow bridge is going up your spine and going across the rainbow. The rainbow that you see in the sky is the chakras. It's the same color coordination as the chakras. It's inverted from our perspective. So when we see the rainbow, we see the purple first, and then it goes up, to the red. But for us, we're on Earth, so we're in the physical, so as above, so below. So the rainbow, which is above, is opposite from we are down below. We're down below, we go red to purple, and if you go up there and you look down, it's the other way around. So it's this way. Physicality, non-physicality. We're in the middle looking up, okay? So that's why we see it that way. Okay, so what is this? It taught me how to do Kundalini yoga. Electricity ran up my top of my legs. Yes, it goes from your feet up to your head. So if you're doing yoga, if you're doing meditation is the same. Meditation, what you're trying to meditate towards is that place in your mind where you're quieting the mind. How do you quiet the mind? You quiet the mind by raising your vibration to a spiritual level. So the thinking mind, right? The thinking mind, the ego and the conscience, the devil on your left shoulder and the angel on the other shoulder become quieted because you're moving into the place of the observer, the witnesser, that which is in control, right? What do you think of Reiki? I am a Reiki master, so is my wife, and we teach it. If you look on the screen right here, I teach Reiki 1, Reiki 2, and Reiki 3 attunements. I am a Reiki master teacher, so is Brooke. So Reiki is just Japanese for the direct translation is light energy. Rei, energy of and ki. So like the Chinese chi, right? So the chi is energy, the ki is energy. That's your personal energy, the energy of the universe, and then the Rei is the source. So it's source energy, light energy from God, from Creator. Okay, that's what Reiki means. So we actually teach that. We teach you the way, and a lot of what I'm telling you right now is actually in our manuals. You could ask Penny, who's in the audience, because she has at least Reiki 1, I think, from us, and or Reiki 2 from us, because we're giving her attunements again and going to make her a master at some point. Right? So there's Brooke, there's my wife talking about it, right? Kundalini, Kunda buffer, divine masculine, divine feminine, not just Kundalini. Do you see? because Kundalini is what they tell you. It's just one word. It's like saying Kali Yuga, not letting you know that the Kali is a time period, and then Yuga is what is happening. So there's different Kalis. Because Kali is a time period, so Kali Yuga is actually the ancient words from Sanskrit, or maybe Aramaic, probably Sanskrit, because it originated there, and now it's Hindu words. Kali Yuga would mean time of trouble or time of tribulation. Kali is time, and they don't tell you that. They tell you that you hear that word Kali, and you think that it means something different, and you don't realize that it means that. So learning, this is the point about being a theologian. If you are trying to learn and they tell you Anunnaki, you should research, not just listen to what they're telling you. So your research can't be watching videos from History Channel's Ancient Aliens, because you're only going to get that narrative that's wrong, that was a lie. You're not going to get actual facts from the people who actually translated those scrolls. Okay, so academics actually translated those scrolls. The same thing with Bibles. Most of your theologians, right, which my brother just graduated and got his bachelor's degree in theology and ministry. He graduated like last week. I love my little brother for doing that. He's starting to realize this too. So in theology, same thing. If you want to know about a religion, you have to actually dissect it. But here's the problem with most theologians. They get caught in chasing a scroll. They see the fact that, like, say, Noah and Enoch and a few others, that flood seems to be talking from the same perspective of the same person, till you actually get to read about it and find out that they were actually different people who were related to each other. Okay, they were like great grandparents, of each other. People don't realize that. So there was more than one deluge that happened, and there was a conversation about it. But you also have to realize that some of those stories sound familiar, like the story of Adam and Eve. Then you have the story of Adama. Then you have the story of Adapa. Okay. And people say, well, they just must have copied it from that older scroll, right? So therefore, we have to find the oldest scroll. And you get caught in that, and you don't actually look at what it is that you're trying to figure out. What is the message that is the scroll? No one looks at the message to find out, is it the same message, or did they borrow it? Did they claim they borrowed it? Is it another version of the same storyline? You have to look at those things to find out. Sometimes it's a little bit of both. Sometimes it is a direct translation that they used when they were putting together their Bible, because people do that. For instance, the Bible that the Scottish have, it's called the Colburn Bible, Colburn with a K. And the first 7 books from the Colburn Bible are scrolls that came out of with Moses in the Exodus. Moses didn't have them, but priests did. When there was the Exodus, the priests took a whole bunch of scrolls with them when they left, because they were going to start churches when they got back to Israel. Okay, so the priests had these scrolls, and some of these monks found these scrolls at some point later in the future when they were looking through everything. They took those scrolls back to Scotland, and they realized that the stories that were in those scrolls, which the Egyptians say we didn't write, they came from a societal structure far before ours. So we're looking at not post-dynastic but pre-dynastic Egypt, which would suggest the time of Atlantis. Okay, so we're talking about 35,000 years ago to 77,000 years ago now, not just 12,000 years ago. Those of you who are not nerds, you probably don't care about what I just said, right? So you actually have that stuff, right? You have me on speaker to keep your hubby away. That's hilarious, right? You should have seen his eyes roll. I'll bet, right? He's probably 3D. It's okay. It's not his fault. He's not expanding his consciousness yet, so he thinks I'm a cuckoo cuckoo. It's all right. Someday he'll be me, but right now he's not, right? And in this life, he may not ever do this, because he may not be doing that in this lifetime. And it's okay. There's nothing wrong with him. It's just that's where he is in his belief, and he thinks I'm crazy. Some of my family members think I'm crazy too. My brother thought I was crazy, and now that he's a theologian, he's gone, maybe my brother's not as crazy as I thought, because now he's looking at religion. Right, he's looking at the religious history and the religious scholars. Okay, so once you start to study this stuff, it becomes more difficult, because you start finding that out. So if you start chasing the scrolls, okay, then you're just going to knock down trees trying to find the forest, and you're not going to actually take the time to look at the scrolls and go, what do they actually say? What is it that they're actually trying to tell us? Who cares how many times they're copying it? We keep, as we're looking at their copy, let's see what their message is. And then we look at the other copy that they may have borrowed that from. And what's the message they said and where did they get that from? So if you're going to chase the scroll, don't just chase the scroll, chase the content as well and see how that evolves. Okay. And when you do that, a true prophets demand nothing. True theologians demand nothing, right? Is it challenging? Yeah, it's very challenging, right? You're talking about the husband, I think is what you're saying, right? Ark of the Covenant. Yeah, right. Well, it looks like now there might have been more than one Ark of the Covenant, Josh, not just the Ark of the Covenant, but it looks like, according to the Templar Knights, I'm a knight, but I'm not a Templar Knight. I'm a Columbian Knight. But the Templars claim that there might have been 120 of the arcs, right? So they're investigating that now. We're all trying to figure out how many arcs there were, right? And what's in there, right? Inner testimony, Josh, absolutely, right? I'm at that, stepping over the whole threshold of what is that? Autograph? No, someone who thinks, yeah, well, when you get to that, just the pondering, and this is why I use Socrates, and I quote Socrates when I talk like this. I tell people, don't believe a word I've said, right? Don't believe a word I've said. Go and research it for yourself. Why is that important? Socrates, when people ask Socrates, what makes you think that, or why do you think that? He said to people, don't believe what I say. I can't, and here's your quote, I can't make you believe anything. The only thing I can hope to do is to get you to start thinking for yourself. That's like 4,000 years old. I love that. And so if you're starting to think for yourself and asking questions, then that means that you have listened to people like myself enough around the world to where you started thinking for yourself, or you already were to begin with. You were already questioning your reality and questioning the world, and you just happen to run on and find somebody like me, and you listen even more, right? So you have to realize that stuff. My poor wife doesn't look like she's feeling good at all. Yeah, she's sitting over here now. She has a heating pad on her little tummy, and she's not feeling good, right? So the good thing is asking questions. When you ask questions, that's the best thing that you can do. I love you very much. That's the best thing you can do, because it is the beginning of the end of their control over you. Okay. Once you start asking questions, you will then start piercing the veil. You'll start being able to see through the cracks in that veil, because you're not going to just be fed shit. You're not going to be a mushroom anymore. And, because that's what they do, is they treat you like a mushroom. They keep you in the dark and they feed you full of shit. Okay. So that's what they do to all of us. They keep us in the dark and they feed us full of shit. Right. So once you start questioning everything, it changes everything about you, because when you ask a question, you're going to get more questions. Your answer is going to be more questions. And you're going to then go, huh? Right? So I tell people all the time when they go, you don't know what you're talking about, I always say, prove it. Go and look it up. Prove it. Prove I don't know what I'm talking about. And on my podcast, I tell people all the time, and we're filming this for my podcast right now. So this will be on my podcast later today, okay, or tomorrow, depending on how long it takes me to convert the file over to an MP3 and get it out there. So it'll be worldwide. I tell people, if you can prove me wrong, I'll have you on, and you can tell the whole world about it, right? So it's true. Thank you, Laura, for that. Laura said, great analogy. Thank you for that. That's not mine. I didn't invent that. Right? I borrowed most of that, right? I didn't plagiarize it, but I borrowed most of it, because plagiarism was trying to tell you that was my idea. The only part of my idea is the first quote of this book right here, my book, The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways. Religion recruits you, spirituality waits for you to find it. That's actually mine, right? So literally you have to realize that by questioning even me, you're going to get more answers for yourself, because the second that you start going down that road is the second you're going to open up the possibilities for everything, right? We have these cell phones in our hand. Do you know what this is? This is access to the entire knowledge of the entire human existence, right in this phone, okay? Right in our hands. And what are we doing? We're looking for bazookas with grandma getting shot from a cat across the street, right? When we could be researching everything, right? So I tell people, stop just scrolling and start focusing your attention. Your focus determines your reality. That's also not mine. That was Qui-Gon Jinn in book 1 or book 2, book 1 of Star Wars series, when he went and got Anakin, and he said to Anakin, "Anakin, your focus determines your reality." Okay, so you have to realize that. I'm also a Jedi Master, by the way. I'm listed in the Jedi Temple over here in New Zealand, that way east, because I'm in Australia, on the east coast of Australia. Okay, so I'm also a Jedi Knight and a Jedi Master listed in the Jedi Council in New Zealand. So you have to realize that that philosophical thought, that ideology, is a great allegory for the brain. Question everything. Your focus determines your reality. So if you want to wake up, if you want to get out of here, you have to make that your focus, right? Somebody last time I was live asked that question. The video is up here on the sites like 2 or 3 days ago. Might have even been, I think it was just yesterday or the other day. Day after that, I added that to the thing, right? So how important is our how important is our focus, or how important is our what we focus on? 100%, 100%, because your focus determines your reality. So if you focus on nothing, you're always going to get nothing. If you focus on negative, you're always going to get negative. So if you focus on politics, that's all you're going to see in the world. If you focus on the devil, that's all you're going to see in the world. If you think that the Antichrist is running the world, that's all you're going to see, because that's what your focus is on. Okay. So if you want to change your reality, look within yourself. And Carl Jung, right? Do shadow work. You have to have the dark night of the soul, and you have to become less subjected to yourself and be objective of yourself or with yourself. So that means to be true to yourself is to be honest. So to be honest is then to focus not on who I think I am, but who other people see me as, right? So what do people see me as? So do I want to be what they see me as, or do I want to be what I think I am? So if I think I'm a good person, I need to have them think that I'm a good person. That means if they don't see me as a good person, there's something about me that I don't realize that they're looking at that's wrong. So yeah, see, Brooke is back there talking about, right? Positive affirmation. She said, I am, right? I am positive affirmation. She's giving you a positive affirmation by telling you how to say that. I am a positive affirmation, right? And your focus determines your reality. She's reminding that, right? Where your attention goes, energy flows. I love that, Michelle. You're absolutely right. Where your attention goes, energy flows. So intention, intention, intention. We also teach that, right? I'm also a Merlin. That's hence the Merlin in the Merlin and Maeve, right? I have that Merlin title. I'm a druid. I'm a priest. My wife is a priestess. Why is that important? Because we teach that. When we teach you these things like the defense against the dark arts, which you see right here on the screen, when we teach you this stuff, we teach you intention, intention, intention. Your intention is going to drive your reality. Your focus is on an intent, right? I intend to take a drink of my coffee, TikTok, coffee, not alcohol. I don't drink alcohol. They do not imbibe alcohol. It's coffee. I intend to take a drink of my coffee. My intent was coffee, right? My reality became I was drinking a cup of coffee, drinking some coffee. Where your attention goes, right? So thank you. My wife just put that in the chat right there. Brooke just put that in the chat. Defense Against the Dark Arts. Enroll now. We have classes coming up. We took off like almost a whole month of teaching that class. It's the most important class, and it's the most, everybody in the world wants it. Every time we put a class up and schedule it, we end up scheduling 3 or 4 a month because of it. It's a 2-day Zoom course if you're not in New South Wales, right? So even if you are, you don't have to attend in person, right? We do it on Zoom. And the whole thing is a presentation, and you guys have images to look at, and you can pick my brain directly. We keep the class size under 5 because we found that it works better because it's a 4-hour class, right? So it's 2 days, 4 hours a day. So you're getting 8 hours of me being able to ask me questions, right? So if we have the class too large, then there's a lot of questions and it runs on too long. So people don't get to hear everything that they want to hear. And some people won't ask questions because there's too many people asking questions. It's kind of like on my lives. There's a lot of people that show up in the audience and sit, and they don't ask questions because they're timid. They're afraid to. They're just listening to me and listening to you guys ask questions. Some people won't speak up and ask questions because they're not sure if this might be a dumb question. You know what I mean? Do you believe that we have a firmament above us? No. So let me tell you how that works. Okay. How you got the firmament. Here's the study of religion again. How you got the firmament comes out of all of the ancient texts on how this place was created. Okay. So when you read all the ancient texts, like let's do the Marduk one with Tiamat, okay? When you look back into that actual scrolls and that actual religion, Tiamat in that story of Marduk and Tiamat is a dragon. The dragon is the beast. The dragon was the beast and still is the beast all the way into the Druid line. Okay, so the beast is the dragon, even in the Viking pantheon. So the beast was physicality again. So Tiamat was the primordial ooze that the earth was the chaos that earth was created out of, and Marduk had to defeat the chaos and make the earth. Okay, so Marduk went up against Tiamat. Nobody could go against Tiamat, and Marduk was the only one who could go against Tiamat. And Marduk unalived Tiamat, but she wasn't unalive; she was actually just sleeping. That story is the same in a lot of the religions: the Viking religion, the Japanese religion, many other religions. There was a giant who was wreaking havoc or assisting with building the earth, then got in the way and was wreaking havoc and needed to be unalived. Okay. And then guess what? We took the skull of this giant and we're living in it. Okay. So the dome of the sky with the firmament that's up there is the inside of a skull cap of a big giant sleeping, not unalived, but sleeping God or goddess. Okay, that's where that came from. It's true. You can look this stuff up. It's the creation story. So we're living inside the head of the creator God who created everything, and the blood is the water. So all of the water is in the rain and everything is the blood of this God, and the teeth are the mountains that are here. That's in many different religions. So that was an allegory that was supposed to at some point expand your consciousness to the realization once you went from I think, therefore I am, living in the tree of life, that to the I am an immortal soul, therefore I think. That's expansion of your consciousness past 3D into 4D thinking. Then when you move into 5D thinking, you're supposed to realize, wait, all of this is just happening in the mind of the creator, in the head of a sleeping giant God who created everything. Okay, so all the people, as time went on, quickly expanded their consciousness. Even the Greeks did, expanded their consciousness and went, oh wait, okay, so the dome of the sky was the dome of the inside of the head of the God. So the earth isn't actually flat. We're not inside of a dome. The earth is actually round. And then they did tests. They did scientific research that you can look up, okay, in history to find out that we're not inside of a dome, that the earth is actually round. It's just one generation of people today, generation Y or Z. Those of you who were born, your age group is right now about 43 or 44 down to about 27. You're the largest population of people who think we're in a flat earth and that we have a dome of the sky there again. And even the guy who came up with that theory, that's your guys' boss, who believes that the earth is flat, the flat earther boss, there's a video of him where they proved, you can tell by looking at him, that he's lying and that he doesn't believe the earth is flat either. But he's making a lot of money off of you guys believing that it's flat. Okay, so yeah, the mountains are the titans. Yeah, so literally, you're in the mind of the creator, and the mountains are the teeth, and the mountains are the thoughts. Everything that's happening in this reality is the thought of the sleeping, dreaming God. Because that's what's happening. If you expand your consciousness enough, all of this is happening in your mind and my mind and our collective consciousness. Our collective consciousness makes up the consciousness in some fraction, a fractal of the creator itself. And that's the scary part. So we don't know if the creator is in the womb of something else, and that we're like in the mind of what we don't even know what we're in the mind of. We could be in the mind of a dog, or we're in the mind of a human, or we're in the mind of something bigger that's going to be born, or we are already born and have become something else. There are so many things in history that mirror that. You have the Big Bang Theory.
Okay, you have the Big Bang. Yeah, in a nesting egg. Yes, it's a Russian nesting egg. In some very sense, like an onion, there's many layers to that, and we're smaller, smaller, smaller. We're the microcosm to the macrocosm. We're the as below so above, or as above so below. We're the tiny fraction that is the we're created in the look of the creator, right? So in some ways, are we humans what the creator looks like? We don't know for certain, but we do know that if you could look at the way that it was talked about, was it designed that way for us because we're humans? Did we then write down how we were trying to expand our consciousness? We don't know, because the oldest scrolls came, we're finding this out now, that those stories came from a time of people who are no longer with us. So we're finding that out now, that there's different things, right? Can you ask Kelto where I come from in the universe? See that we all come from the same place. Where you physically came from, you're born here, but your soul came from another place. You know that. There's so many of us here that are from so many different places. You know the different names of the places that we were from, because all of the aliens that we know that are here are from them. So you're either a blue avian, or you're a Lyran, or you're a gray, or you're a Draco, or you're an Andromedan, or you're right. So are you blue? You have to figure that out. And that's just in the physicality anyways. That's just in the sixth dimension. Then there's another you that's in the 11th dimension, that is from a different plane of existence, and you were created in a different place. And then there's, when you go up high enough, you're the creator. So where are you from? You're from the mind of the creator, right? Are all Orion's Draco? No, Draco is just like, that's like saying, are all humans Chinese? No, the majority of the people on this earth are Chinese. That doesn't mean that the whole planet is Chinese. So there's a lot of draconians here on Earth, or in Earth. They're not walking around on top of it. Some of them are. Most of them are inside. But there's also a lot of Nordics inside there. So no, the draconian race was created by the archangels, the archons, and the Agigi, just like the Lyrans were, just like all other physical races were, right? Reptilian and Chinese, I'm sure, right? Yeah, right. Yeah. There's some of those too. I mean, it depends on how you look at that. If you look at the Asian people, they sort of look like a praying mantis, don't they? I mean, their eyes kind of reflect that mantis look. So where did that come from, right? I get motion sickness, laugh out loud, dragon, right? Yeah, right. So you have to realize that the beast was what that dragon was in the different cultures, right? So the aura borealis, the Oribus, was the dragon. The dragon of the North Sea was the dragon that encompasses the planet. The dragon that encompasses the planet, that idea and that story came from Tiamat, who was a dragon, and Tiamat is encompassing the planet because we're living in her skull. Okay, so thousands of years ago, the story was Tiamat was unalive, but she's not unalive. She's sleeping, and we're living inside of her mind. We're living in her head. So that would suggest that Tiamat was the creator god, but there was something besides that, because Tiamat was just the primordial ooze. So depending on where you're trying to go with it, if you're 3D, if you're a man, you're going to want to say that there was a god that was a man, because you're a man, you're living in 3D. And if you're a woman looking for the sacred feminine, you're going to go back to the whole idea of the sacred feminine. So you're going to say, well, she was the one, she's the mother of creation. And you're going to go there, and because it's your battle of the sexes is in your ego, because you're living in physicality, right? Yeah, Apsu, yes, yeah, same. The word Apsu actually translates in many ways to that. So that's just, yes, you're right. Yeah, absolutely. So Lyndon, you have a little bit more education, because you want to know the word Apsu. Yes. So Tiamat and Apsu, there's where you're getting the difference. You also have to look at, like, say, Enlil and Enki, right? You probably understand that reference, right? Enlil and Enki, that's ego and conscience. That's masculine and feminine, even though they were both men. It's the same as Gilgamesh, the story of Gilgamesh, right? So Enlil and Enki, if you look at Enlil and Enki and you study that, you'll find that one was always one was negative and self-serving, and the other one was not. And that's the dichotomy. So when you go to the underworld in the old ancient scrolls and the religions, they said the underworld didn't mean where the evil people resided. It meant the ego. So it was within you. The underworld was actually inside of you. So story of Gilgamesh, when he went into the underworld, he was actually searching himself to find the answers. And he did find the answers. When he looked within himself, he gained the secrets to the universe and immortality, but he was looking for it in the physical plane. So when he came back to his consciousness from looking within himself, he was then still looking for the fountain of youth in the physical, and he lost the knowledge, because you can't have that knowledge if you're self-serving. Do you see? So that's that story. And that story was supposed to be teaching children the same way Santa Claus is teaching children, that Gilgamesh and Santa Claus are no different. And in your mind, you're thinking Santa Claus is a cartoon and is a fable, but Santa Claus is actually the Christ. No different than Jesus, no different than Thor, no different than Marduk, no different than Moses. That was the Christ. They were the Christos, right? But most people don't know that. Yeah, right. There you go, Lyndon, right? Gilgamesh, Inanna, masculine, feminine, right? Yeah, and you're looking at that. Osiris and Hathor, masculine and feminine, equals. Not, so if you look at the Roman, the Greek, and then the Israeli God pantheon, they became very monotheistic, even though the Greeks and the Romans had polytheistic. They had many different gods, masculine and feminine. Zeus was in charge, Osiris was in charge, ultimately the man was in charge. So that's why they were male dominated religions, and that's why their societal structures were warlike. Same thing with the Israelis. There is only one God. And because of there's a masculine man, there's no feminine, the Israelis are warlike, and they always have been conquering. They were conquering people. They were conquering people. Still are. The Christianity is the same. It's based on, so is the Muslim religion. Muslim religion is based on the book of Moses. Christianity is based on the book of Hebrews from the book of Moses, right? And those religions are warlike. That's why all those religions have been warlike for the last 2,000 years. And the Hebrews before that. All of the religions that have survived are masculine, male dominated, but there's some that are feminine as well. If you look at the Viking, they want to paint that as the Vikings were just marauding, raping, pillaging, conquering men who were just bravado. They weren't. They were actually masculine, feminine. Women were equal. That's why the History Channels, even for their misgivings, their History Channel, when they did the Vikings, they showed the women fought with them. There was just as many women as there was men on every expedition. That was real. Okay, so that wasn't just men going out a Viking and raping and pillaging. The women were going too, and they weren't doing it because they wanted to conquer the planet. They just wanted to be farmers, and they were looking for land. And whenever they found it, they would settle. They had settlements. They didn't continue conquering unless somebody made them mad. Somebody pissed them off by attacking them, and then they would go kill everybody, right? So that's what I'm here to do, Fruity Loops. That's what I'm here to do, Fruity Loops. I'm here to get you to start thinking for yourself and answer your questions. Right? And I'm not coming at you from a third dimensional construct. That's why I channel my higher self, Kelto, which is right here on the screen. That's why I channel me, my higher self, Kelto from the 11th dimension. I give you the information truly because I am unveiled. I do not have amnesia like you do. My third eye is wide open and has been. I remember being in the womb. I remember every life that I've had from this one all the way back to the Creator. Okay. Society's not falling apart. I don't even know what to call you, right? Because you have all those symbols. I love that, right? So I'll call you ARF, right? So society's not falling apart. Society's actually better off now than it was. And people are like, no way. And I'm like, okay. So Socrates, 3,500 years ago, said, 4,000 years ago, he said, I think the earth might not be flat. It might be round. They convicted him and tried him in court and found him guilty and made him drink poison to die, okay, because of that thought. So they don't do that today. You can say the earth is flat. I can say the earth is round. No one cares. Okay, when he was alive, that's how bad things were. If you said the wrong thing, you got unalived. Okay, so then let's go forward from that to 2,000 years ago when Jesus was walking around. Jesus said, you don't have to go and sit in their box. God listens to you and he hears you. They strung him up, tried him in a court, strung him up and nailed him to a cross and whipped him and beat him for that thought. We can say that now and no one cares. The world isn't getting worse. It's not coming undone. What is coming undone is Galileo even. What is coming undone is this caste system that they put in place some 12,000 years ago and solidified in the last 2,000 years as hard as they could to keep people from waking up. That's what's coming undone. So our societal structure appears from a physical standpoint to be having problems. And why is that? Because it has growing pains. Because what's happening is people are waking up. People like me are telling you what's going on and getting you to start thinking for yourself, and you're asking questions. And in doing so, they're losing their control over you. Okay. And because they're losing their control over you, they're getting more desperate for us to be back asleep. Okay. Yeah, people create their own world, right? So your focus, that goes back to that. Your focus determines your reality, right? Why poor Joan of Arc? Well, again, Joan of Arc was sent for the sacred feminine as an example to save the people of France. And what did they do? They tried her, convicted her, and executed her because she freed the country, because she wouldn't bow to men. She was a sacred feminine, reenacting the sacred feminine once again, so that history remembers her now as a sacred feminine, the same way that history remembers Mary Magdalene, the same way history remembers Tiamat now, is starting to remember the Sophia, starting to remember and forgetting about error. By the way, errors in the book of truth, there was a female who created the earth, and her name was Error. It's where we get the word error from, because Error made the mistake of creating the humans, thinking she could create the humans as good as God, and created infallible. And that's also an allegory. It's not true. But it did say in that scroll itself that if she did create the humans, it wasn't out of arrogance, because God allowed her to do it. That was the same story that you were supposed to get, or the same message you were supposed to learn as the Garden of Eden, right? So God is either a moron, or God put the temptation in front of the humans because God wanted the humans to have that freedom. Okay, so the church who's trying to control you said, it's your women's fault because you guys ate the fruit from the tree of life, and convinced Adam, and he was just so innocent, little boy, would have never eaten that fruit, but you evil women ate the fruit. And that was just their taking control of the feminine and pushing it out of the way. That entire storyline wasn't written that way originally. Okay. I just remembered that she rode at dawn and was she was a badass. But if you look more at what she did, she spoke to God. God was talking to her. They thought she was crazy because she spoke to God. She spoke out loud to God. So they thought that she was nuts. But yet when other people talk to God, they don't think that they're crazy. But in the modern day, if you talk to God, you're crazy. So like, when Braveheart came out, and you have, what's his name, O'Neill, the crazy guy who showed up and was talking to God, the crazy Irish guy. Everybody said he was crazy because he was talking to God out loud. So we pray to God and we do it to ourselves, and it's okay. If we whisper to God, please help me with this, we're not cuckoo, cuckoo. But if we look up and go, yes, Father, I'll ask him. He keeps saying, don't, just quit changing the subject and answer the fucking question, right? Because he said, if I fight for you, I get to kill the English, right? So you have to realize that perspective, again, perspective, and those who write history are those who conquer. So originally they painted her as evil because she was a woman who was creating freedom for women and free thinking for women. So they had to get rid of her. But now she's like a hero to the French people. Why? Because at some point the French people embraced her, but she had to be gone at the time because the witch's hammer was around at that time. And that book was teaching men how to shut up free thinking women, because you can't keep the world under control if the feminine gets involved, because the feminine will expand your consciousness into the feminine realm, and then they'll lose control over the people. So they had to keep you women silenced as long as they could. Okay. Right. So instead of the first sin, yeah. So the original sin wasn't that. The original sin. This is like when they say the fall of the war in heaven. That just didn't happen. The war in heaven. Heaven is in your head. Heaven is in here. Heaven is, the actual word for heaven actually meant the heaved up place. It meant here. The heavens were in your mind originally, but they took that part out and told you that the heavens were somewhere up there, because God's up there. Caste system again. God's up there. You're nothing. You're a little piddly ass, little teeny human down here. You have no control. God's in control. God does all the willing, and you guys just have nothing. Shut up, sit down, and do what you're saying. Oh, you believe in that Savior guy? Yeah, he said, wait here. He said, wait here, I'm going to get a bus. I'll be back with a bus. So that way they have you just sitting down and you just keep waiting, and you'll be rewarded in the afterlife. So they have you do what they want you to do. Here, strap this on, go over there and pull this cord and unalive all those people, and you'll get 100 million virgins to have sex with every day and in the afterlife. And you believe it because you're a child in your mind, and you run over there, right? So let's see. Hold on. Let me see what you're saying here, Lyndon. I was wondering if the Eden story was an allegory. It was for the souls falling in duality. No, that's exactly what it was supposed to be. You're actually right. For the experience, yes, that is. You're exactly right in that. Right. No matter the experience, the story was originally the fall of Babel. Every fall that you hear from any religion, and it's over and over. So even in the same religion, you hear about the fall many different times, right? Babylon falls. You hear the fall of David. You hear the fall of the human existence, eating of the tree of life. All of those stories were just allegories to teach you that we chose to come here. Eventually, you were supposed to expand your consciousness to the realization that we came from that source, and we volunteered to come down here and mind wipe ourselves so that we could have all of this. We were bored up there as the creator. We're pondering, who am I? What am I? Where did I come from? Okay. So as the creator, we are all the collective consciousness of the creator, and all of this is just happening in the mind of the creator. So that's the truism. That's the 5D thinking of this reality, of the realization. And people say, is there any physical proof of that? There is, and science hates it, right? So the science says that the Big Bang Theory is how the universe started, okay? And I agree with them, and I say, you're absolutely right, it is, right? So there was nothing, and then there was light. And then everything came out of that. There was an explosion of light and everything came out of that. And then they go, oh, here we go, your Christian God. I'm like, no, yeah, okay. As above, so below. It's your guys' idea. You said there is nothing and there was a big bang, and the big bang was light. And then they go, yes. And so there was an explosion of light, and all things evolved out from that. So in the story that is more older and ancient than your science, said that there was nothing, and then God said, let there be light, and there was an explosion of light and everything came out of that. And people were like, oh, here we go. Well, that could have just been made up. Well, hold on, because that theory got here before your theory of the Big Bang got here. And then if you don't believe that, I say this to you, and I say this to every scientist, and scientists know, and they go, oh, crap. They roll their eyes and they try to look away. Okay, I say this. You believe that there was a Big Bang. There was nothingness. Then there was something, you don't know what started it, but there was nothing, and then there was an explosion of light, and the entire universe evolved out of that. So the ancient religions say that there was nothing, and then there was an explosion of light, and everything evolved out of that. Okay, so on that, you guys' theory, the best one you can come up with is the creation story according to these ancient religions. But if you want proof of that, and you guys can Google this, if you want proof of that, go onto YouTube and watch the video of spermiation. Watch what happens when a sperm cell reaches the egg. Wiggle, wriggle, 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 and then touches that egg and goes wriggle, 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 and gets inside. And the second that it gets inside, the tail comes off, and there's an explosion of light. A little teeny tiny microscopic Big Bang. As below, so above. As within, so without. There's a little teeny explosion of light that goes, and they filmed it. And guess what happens? Then all life expands out of that nothingness from the point of that light. All life starts, and it expands. As above, so below. As within, so without. Okay? And cellular division, one cell turning into two cells, starts with one cell replicating itself on the inside and duplicating itself, all the particles and all the mass on the inside, all of the little teeny quarks and neurons and protons and electrons all double themselves, and then they all move over to one side, and then that side starts to grow, and it keeps going, and it keeps going, and pretty soon there's a black hole there where all of this stuff is being sucked out over to the other side where no one knows where that goes, and eventually that hole collapses like a black hole collapsing, and picking, now you have two identical universes, souls, cellular structures that then divide again and again and again and again, and guess what? When you look at that from the top down, the tree of life starts out as a single cell and turns into 2 and then 4 and then 8 and then 32 and then on and on and on and on to the tree of life. Wait a minute. The ancient guys talking from God said that that's how the universe happened, and the science today says that's how the universe happened, and they say there is no God, but God told some dude 10,000 years ago that this is how it happened. And it's the same scientists that filmed spermiation and how I got here from a single egg with a sperm that went through it and a ball of light and then cellular replication over and over and over until it became me inside the womb of a female in the darkness floating around in a primordial ooze. Wait, what? Hold on, man. Okay. Think about that. Research flat Earth. Researching if you want. Yeah, flat. There is no flat Earth, bro. The Earth is not flat, Josh. The Earth is not flat. We covered that already. If you were here, you got here late. I already covered that. The Earth is not flat. There's only one group of people on this planet who think that, and that's the people between 22 and 44 years of age. And not all of them, but you're one of them. And if you're older than that, it's because you're watching videos by people who are lying to you. Okay, the flat Earth theory comes from, right? I heard of July 19th. The flat Earth theory comes from the idea that you're living in the head of the sleeping giant God. That's where that whole thing comes from. Okay. So we're not living under a dome. No, we're not. The dome of the sky was, you can look this up. Look at the creation story from, let's just go to Marduk fighting Tiamat. That's what I was talking about. It's the ancient, oldest scroll known to mankind, except for the story of Adapa. Okay. The oldest scroll in the history of the world is the story of Adapa, and then the story of Gilgamesh and the story of the Enuma Elish. Okay. So that's not the only one, but this is one that several, the Viking pantheon, the Japanese, Chinese, many other worlds, there was a giant who helped create the universe. What's that? Archon? A Gigi? What's that? Archangel? What's that? What's those words? Look them up. Look up etymology of those words. Find out what they meant to the people who wrote them. There was a giant, Tiamat, who got in the way and had to be tamed. And Marduk showed up and unalived this goddess, and then took the skull, the head of the sleeping, not unalived, but sleeping God, and we're living inside of it. That's the dome of the sky. Look it up. That's where a theory of the dome of the sky came from. Okay? Was that we're living inside the skull of a sleeping God. Hold on, I have to answer this. I wish my wife was out here to take care of this, but I'll have to answer this while I'm live. Hold on one second. Hello?
Hey, mate. Dave from Bergen Plumbing.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, I'm just on my way up to you now, okay?
All right, roger that. Just go ahead and knock on the door when you get here, all right?
All right, see you soon.
All right, thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna have to get off the live because we have a plumber coming here, and my wife, who is home, is probably sleeping now, so she can't answer the door and let the guy in. So I'm going to have to end the live. I will be back live, though. I'll come back. It's 11:45 right now, so if you guys are interested, hang out. I'll be back probably however long it takes him, because we have a leak in our commode here, so we're going to have him take a look at it and fix that. When he's done, I'm going to go back live, so it'll probably be in about an hour, right? It's quarter to 11 in the morning in New South Wales, Australia, currently. I don't know where you guys are in the world, but I will be back live in about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, okay? So if you guys are interested in continuing this conversation and you want to ask some more questions, hit that button so that you know when I go live. And I'm going to go back live again today in a couple hours, okay? So as soon as he's done fixing this, if it takes him 10 minutes, I'll be back live, but it'll probably take him more than that. He's on his way here now. And then we'll have that taken care of once we get that done, because there's a water that's running there and a little bit of a leak. So he should be here any second. So I'm going to go ahead and end this live now, and then I'll be back live a little bit later today. So if you guys are still up, depending on where you are in the world, if you're still awake, just follow Merlin and Maeve, and then know when I go live, you guys can pop back in and ask questions. If you didn't get to ask a question, or I didn't get to see your question and answer it, please come back and ask me the question, and I'll answer that for you. Okay. So we're living under a dome. Yeah. So we're not. There is no dome there. There is no dome there. That was the dome. This is the dome. It's your mind. Okay. So you're not living. There's no dome there. All of that's not true. Think about this. How many people? I'll do this real quick because he's not here yet. Think about this. There's like almost 9 billion people on the planet today. For NASA to lie to the whole world, they would have to control every single military person in the history of the world that flew, every single aviator that flew anywhere in the world, every single one that flies commercially, plus every space program for every single government, plus every politician in every government, plus every military personnel in every government, all the stewardess, all the mechanics, everybody, everywhere, which would suggest that half of the population of this earth, somewhere around 4 billion people, are lying to you. 4 billion people. Okay. For what reason? Because they want money. They got money anyway. They got money anyway. They're not gaining anything by faking and showing you fake things. They're not getting anything. Okay. They were already. So literally what you're saying is that there's a cover up so cool that half of us know about it. That means if you're on a bus and there's 30 people there, 15 of them know and are in on it, and they're lying to you. Okay? You go to a football game and there's 70,000 people, 20,000 people, 28,000, 25,000 people know that the earth is flat and they're lying to you. Okay? That is, you can't keep 20 people shut up. There's no way you could get half of the population to forever shut up about it. The only thing that you guys have is like one guy who said he went to space and then said he didn't go to space. And you have one guy from the 1700s who said that he saw the ice field because the firmament didn't make him go right. Okay? You don't have any proof. If half of the planet was lying, you guys could go out there because they have to identify which of us isn't affected by the firmament. And then they have to pay us off to shut up. So they have to constantly, every time somebody's born, they have to go, can they see it? Can they go out and find the ice thing and tell people about it and take pictures of it? They can. Get them into the program, get them shut up, pay them off. Okay, not everybody is evil. So not everybody's going to take the payoff. Only 14% of the population is in fact self-serving. So you can't get 50% of everybody who is not self-serving to keep that secret. You can't get 50% of self-serving people to keep a secret. Okay. So it's just not going to happen, right? No, you can't say it's only the CIA because the CIA is only the American government. There are 186 other governments with 186 other spy programs. Okay. Just because you're American doesn't mean the world revolves around you. I was born in America. The world doesn't revolve around you. There are free and sovereign countries with their own programs. So the CIA would have to literally control half of the population. Not happening, bro. Okay. So it's just, you can fantasize it all you want. And I'm not here to convince you of that religion. If you want to make that your religion, you can make it your religion and say the earth is flat, and you can sit down right here and wait for Jesus to come back with a bus. Because it's not going to happen. And the only way you'll ever know that the earth isn't flat is one day you'll get out of here, but you won't be able to tell yourself about it. Because when you come back down in here, you're still going to be in 3D, right? So yeah, Project Fishbowl's bullshit. All of those projects that you hear about are given to you. They're fed to you. Okay? Project Blue Book, Project whatever, they're all fed to you. If you listen to the ancient aliens people and any of those people who say they're insiders, they are the ones that are controlled by the government to tell you what they want you to believe. Okay? Dr. Stephen Greer, Giorgio Tsoukalos, all those people. Okay? Those people are the ones that are making millions of dollars off of you thinking there's aliens and waiting for disclosure. Okay? Because somehow you need the American government to tell you aliens exist for them to actually exist. That's the same reason you're the same person who believes the earth is flat, because you think the American government has to tell you that the earth is flat, and they're lying to you and saying that it's round. Again, you're asking permission from your slave owners. So you're enslaving yourself. It's a psyop. You're enslaving yourself with the idea of thinking that the American government needs to admit it to you or it's not real. That's a form of slavery. You're giving them the power to, you're literally saying aliens don't exist until they tell us that they're going to exist. We're going to make them tell us that they're real. Why do you need them to tell you they're real for them to be real? That's like saying the sky's not really blue unless the American government tells me it's blue. I'm not really free unless the American government tells me I'm free. All right, guys, I love you. I have to go because I hear a vehicle pulling up. Okay, so yeah, right. 50% of the sheep are torn from the secret. Yeah, bro, you want that to be your religion? Keep after it. I got to go because the guy's here. All right. So I'll be back when the guy's gone. I'll come back live and we can still argue this point even more if you guys are still interested. If you have other spiritual questions that actually mean something, ask me and I'll tell you about it. But yeah, the earth's just not flat. All right, guys, I got to go. I love you guys. Well, if I pause, it'll only pause for like 5 minutes and then it's going to shut down anyways. Otherwise, I would just pause it. I'll have to keep coming over and turning it on, turning it off. It's easier for me to just, yeah, I know. And then you guys can keep tapping for me, right? But I don't know how long it's going to be. So I will be back live. Okay. So I'll be back as soon as I can. All right, guys, have a good day. I'll be right back in about an hour. All right. Hopefully less.